So my name's Melissa Patel. I'm a painter and I've worked with concepts of photogenic abstraction, collective memory, and I've been interested in art my whole life, so I consider myself like I've been an artist since I was a kid. So I went to an art high school and I recently graduated from OCAD University here in Toronto, and when I was a kid I used to learn how to draw from my mom, who is at the time used to love art and drawing and painting and things like that. For me now, I typically start with photography, so depending on what I'm doing, I'm either working with family photographs or I'm taking pictures of like close-ups of textures and things like that I like, and from there I just sort of play around with what the imagery is showing me and puzzle piece them together, so maybe I'm layering them on top of each other or collaging them together to sort of get a sense of what a painting could be, and from there it's like a process of translation. So maybe I'll project it and I'll like go in extreme detail, drawing out every little shadow that I see from the projector, and from there I'll paint. And that process of translation, one might think that you're trying to capture all the detail, but in that process you're losing so much and that there's so much variability. I find that really fascinating, trying to control the work, but still at the same time you're accepting the fact that you're losing so much information from that initial start. For me, like, because I like really intense, like, detailed work, for me that what draws me into that is how meditative it is to work on something that's so like detailed and time consuming. You sort of like get lost with how long you're painting, and it's sort of like by the time you take a step back it's like waking up and you're surprised by how much you've accomplished. I think the pressure to be like 100% like an original artist, like to me that doesn't really make sense based on what I was taught. Like I don't think it's possible to be a completely original anymore. I think art has always been more of a conversation, responding to something that happened in the past or something that's happening now. Everything sort of connects to each other in that way. I never really considered like what people would see when they look at my art, like in terms of what they see about me, but I guess depending on what it is, I guess I want people to see my hand in it, and I want them to see like the dedication that goes into it. I try not to like, it looks like my work is like trying to be really perfect, but to me I don't think it is. I think it's flawed and you can sort of see my hand in it, or at least I try to leave my mark in my work. I think it changes depending on where you are. If like you go into some rural towns like that I frequently would visit in the summer times, you'll see people really drawn to traditional like Canadian painting, so like landscapes, group of seven type stuff, or maybe some indigenous art. But once you come into the city it's completely different. People are much more curious to see what else is out there, not just sort of that generic stereotype of what Canadian art is. Yeah. I think I do. From my understanding of what emerging is, it's someone sort of starting out in their career and starting to put themselves out there and trying to get noticed in that sense. And I feel like I'm just at the beginning of my career where I'm starting to do that. I've just recently started submitting my work for shows and things like that, getting published and things like that. I'm really trying to push my work out beyond like this space, my studio space. Yeah. Right now my studio space is in my basement, which is like it's convenient for me because like I have all the personal items that I need. Like I work with family photographs a lot, so I have like all my family photo albums here, and I can just like pull them out and see what will trigger a response in me. I use fabrics in my work recently, and I have like all of these traditional dresses and things like from my family members that I can pull into my artwork and things like that. So for me, being in this space, I think it's influencing my work in that sense, where I have these family sentimental objects that can feed into my work. Yeah, so like the painting that's going to be shown there, it's called Is This Desire? And it was about the idea of how do I capture an active emotion. For me, I'm like really interested in capturing what does a memory look like, or what does like an active emotion look like beyond, like, let's say I desire fame. You could paint like a famous person, or you can paint yourself famous, but that's not the desire. The desire is the feeling. So I took like a generic symbol of like what could be desire, like maybe a rose. A rose symbolizes desire, and then I looked at sort of textures and things that I found really attractive and beautiful, and I layered that on top. And I was just sort of playing around, like the rose is the object, and these other textures, these other layers are more of the emotion, the clouding of like the expectation and the wanting and things like that. And most of my abstract paintings are like that. It's a layering of several different images on top of each other, and it's sort of like peeling back the layers of this is what I feel, this is what I want, and things like that.